Et bienvenue à la conférence
Welcome
de
to
presse
the
de la
press
vie d'Adèle,
conference
chapitres 1
on
et 2
La vie d'Adèle,
d'Abdelatif Keshish.
Adele's life. Blue is the warmest color by
par
Abdelatif
l'extrémité de la
Keshish.
table.
I'll start at the other end
Victor
of the table.
Fécond, distributeur avisé, prêt toujours à
A
de nouvelles
distributor,
aventures,
producer, always ready for
cofondateur de
new
Wild
adventures, a
Bunch,
co-founder of
producteur de La
Wild
vie
Bunch
d'Adèle,
and producer
Vincent
of
Maraval,
Blue is the
Brahim
warmest
Choua.
color, Vincent Maravel and Brahim Chouia.
À côté d'eux,
Next to
magnifiquement
them,
vorace de rôle,
voracious in
demandé aussi
terms
bien
of
par Woody Allen,
parts,
Quentin Tarantino, Ridley
sought
Scott que par Christopher
after
Noé
by
ou Woody
Woody
Allen.
Allen,
Elle
Tarantino,
a
and
quitté
many
hardiment
others.
ses vêtements de
She
cour des Adieux à la Reine de
left
Benoît
her
Jacot, Léa
costumes,
Seydoux.
Adieu à la Reine, and is playing in this film, Léa Seydoux.
À côté de moi,
Next to
elle
me,
s'appelle Adèle.
we have
Elle est
Adele.
Adèle.
She is
Déjà une
Adele.
vraie filmographie. Petite
Quite a
fille, elle a
lot
été
of
notamment un des
films
enfants
to
de
her
Tim
credit.
Volbach. Elle a très
She
bien
played as a
grandi.
child, and
Adèle
she has
Exarchopoulos.
matured nicely. Adele Exarchopoulos.
Élodie Bouchès dans La faute à Voltaire. Sarah
In
Forestier
La
dans
faute
l'Esquire.
à Voltaire,
Assa
Sarah
Harisi dans La
Foster,
graine et le mulet.
La graine et
Yaima
le
Torres
mulet, The
dans
Secret
Vénus noire.
of the
Il y
Grain,
a toujours
Black
su rendre
Venus,
justice aux
It's Voltaire's
actrices
Fault,
et aux
Games of
femmes.
Love and
Abdelatif
Chance.
Keshish.
He's always given a wonderful opportunity to actresses and women. Abdelatif Keshish.
À qui je vais peut-être poser la première
And I'll
question.
put my first
La vie
question to
d'Adèle
him.
s'ouvre
La vie d'Adèle,
sur la
blue
vie
is the
mariale de
warmest
Marivaux.
color,
Marivaux
starts
était au
with
centre
some
de
lines from
l'Esquire.
Marivaux.
C'est un salut,
Marivaux
c'est une boucle qui se
is
boucle.
this sort of
C'est un chemin qui
squaring the
continue.
circle. It's just a pathway that continues.
C'est Marivaux.
It's
l'œuvre de
Marivaux, his work
fait partie
is
de mes livres de chevet.
one of
J'aime
the
lire
books
cet auteur,
I have read ever since I was a child. It was at my bedside every evening. I love the way he writes.
de redécouvrir
I enjoy rereading his books all the time.
C'est un auteur
And he is an author
qui explore toujours
who always
la psychologie,
explores human psychology,
sentiments.
feelings.
Et effectivement, il y avait une volonté comme ça de continuer.
In fact, I wanted to mention him in my film,
C'est difficile de parler pour
continue
moi de cet auteur, hein.
talking about this author,
C'est, et notamment de la vie de Marianne. Hein. Là aussi, il y a une référence.
La vie de Marianne. Indeed, there are references to
d'un roman qui est pour moi
a novel, a character.
une immense œuvre, La vie de Marianne.
It's a fabulous piece of
Ça faisait
writing.
longtemps
It's
que
a masterpiece.
je traînais cette idée avec moi,
And
comme ça,
For a long time, I had wanted to begin
par s'interroger sur
working on a film
la,
which would wonder
ce qu'on appelle le
about
coup de foudre,
what we call falling in love,
le premier désir, et comme
the first
Marivaux
desire
l'exprime
one may experience.
tellement bien,
And Marivaux portrays that so beautifully that
commencer le film.
I wanted to begin the film with that first scene. Frédéric Rougeau, I have a question to Abdelatif and to Adèle. You have a lot of close-ups. There are some very intimate scenes. What about this way of filming? Is it a special means of expression? Do you film scenes over and over again until you get exactly what you want? And for Adèle, what about this method of filming? How did you experience this as an
C'est c'est pas une chose qu'on réfléchit vraiment.
This is not something we really thought about or thought
J'ai une
through.
façon de filmer.
We didn't say to each other, well, this is the
C'est un
way
moment
I
très
want to
délicat, le
film
matin,
things.
Quand on aborde la place du cadre.
When you look at the actual frames in the film and in this specific scene,
On commence par le chercher.
what we started to do was to try to find just the right frame, just the way we think things should be filmed, and then a few hours later what we realize is we may have not found exactly the right frame. It's a bit like a photographer who is looking for the best way to frame a given picture.
Pour filmer.
That's what we do when we're filming, just like a photographer when he's taking a photo.
Le gros plan,
These close-ups,
bien que la caméra est souvent
well, of course,
éloignée.
the camera is often at quite a distance. I usually work with very long lenses so as not to upset the actors.
Avec la caméra très proche.
I don't want the camera to be too close.
Le gros plan
And these close-ups
permet de capter
capture
des expressions très fines.
very subtle expressions that you don't always see in life,
qu'on ne voit pas dans la vie.
tiny little movements that you don't pick up.
C'est quelque chose que j'aime.
And this is something I very much love in the cinema.
Adèle?
Adèle?
Moi, je pense que je faisais confiance, enfin, je fais confiance à
Well, I have great trust in
on oublie
Abdel.
le nombre de prises qu'on
So
fait.
you forget the number of takes, in fact.
Une liberté derrière l'objectif.
We feel extremely free
Forcément, enfin, on sait même pas
acting
si on
in his
reprend
films. You don't even realize whether there is a close-up or not. Sometimes you don't even know whether you're being filmed, and sometimes you're being filmed when you don't think you are.
Du coup, non, je pense que c'est un rapport de confiance.
So I think it's a question of trust, basically, this wonderful trusting relation that grew up between us. What about Léa?
Qu'est-ce qu'il faut répondre à ça? Je suis quelqu'un qui a beaucoup de mal, je crois. Vous
I
m'entendez? Pardon. Moi, j'ai un rapport particulier à la caméra.
have a special relationship with the camera. I'm very shy.
Regardez, même là, je parle et je rougis.
I'm actually blushing as I speak.
Pour moi, j'avais très envie de travailler avec Abdel.
I very much wanted to work with Abdel. I was keenly interested in doing this film. There's a wonderful truth about him and in his films, which are so very realistic.
Embarqué là-dedans.
I wanted to be involved in this project. I always had the feeling that I had great difficulty acting in a natural way.
Mais grâce à Abdel, je crois que
But
parfois,
thanks
quand
to
même, j'ai
Abdel,
réussi à
I think
oublier
I
la caméra.
did succeed in forgetting there was a camera.
Moi, je pense pas que ce soit vraiment sans vouloir faire la.
Obviously,
Je pense qu'il existe en Léa une capacité.
Léa has
émotionnelle,
tremendous ability in terms
tellement
of portraying
forte,
emotions.
Et que, effectivement, plus il y a d'émotions, plus en soi,
The
plus il y a
more
de vibrations en
one
soi,
is
plus c'est
emotional,
difficile
the more
de
one
les exprimer
really
devant la caméra.
vibrates, the more difficult it may be to express all this
Lorsqu'elle le fait, elle
in front of a
atteint
camera.
un degré, enfin, moi,
But
qui
she
me fait vraiment
manages
vibrer
it so well.
sur le plateau.
She truly vibrates on the set.
Je pense qu'en réalité, elle est très à l'aise devant
I
la
think
caméra
she's very much at ease in front of a camera, in fact.
et qu'elle sait en jouer et qu'elle sait
She knows how to make the most of the situation.
la charmer.
She appears most charming.
Oui, bonjour. Brian Johnson, Maclean's Magazine, Canada. Une question pour le réalisateur.
I have a question to the director and to Adele and Léa.
Félicitations à tout le monde.
Congratulations to everyone. It's an extraordinary film.
Bon, les scènes de sexualité.
What about the
sont
sex
tellement,
scenes?
C'est quelque chose qu'on n'a pas vraiment vu. Il y a une ampleur, il y a une passion, il y a une chaleur.
They are uncustomary.
Très, très intime.
They
Ça, c'est
are
quelque chose
very
qui est
warm,
prévu,
very
qui a été
intimate.
prévu dans le
Was that
scénario.
planned
Est-ce que
in the
c'est,
script? Were things planned to be that
pour tout le
way?
monde, est-ce que c'était surprenant
It was very
au
surprising.
plateau, ou Est-ce que c'est
to see this in the film? Was it a surprise on the set as well, or was it planned? This is something we wanted to shoot in that way.
On espère que pour chaque scène,
And we hope that in each scene,
il se passe quelque chose de beau. Mais
the idea of beauty will emerge.
voilà, j'ai répondu.
I believe I have answered your
Moi, je m'y
question.
attendais pas trop. Après,
I didn't really expect
je
this.
m'attendais pas à ce que ça soit
I
aussi
didn't expect
surprenant,
things to be quite so surprising.
aussi, pardon. Non, j'y étais pas préparée. Enfin, c'était pas. Il y avait beaucoup de choses que.
A
Il y
lot
avait beaucoup de propositions de la part de tous les acteurs.
of things
sur
were
plein de
actually
choses différentes.
proposed
En plus,
by the
c'était
actors
touché à-
in
je sais
many
pas, aux
respects.
costumes. Enfin, Abdel, des fois, il nous disait,
The costumes, for example.
La scène, elle finit comment
Abdel said, well, how do you think the scene should finish? Well, he said, well, if you want the scene to finish in a different way, feel free. So we did that. We constantly improvised and made different proposals and suggestions. So we were free. It wasn't written down. It was most surprising the way things turned out. It was the result of our relationship that evolved, the fact we'd been working together for many months together. I think all the actors made proposals during the film.
Léa?
Léa?
Oui.
Yes? Same question?
Quelle était la question, pardon?
What was the question?
La question c'était.
The question was, was everything planned in the script? Were you surprised by the degree of passion and lust and the length of these sex scenes? This is something that we're not really accustomed to seeing on the screen. It was a different scale. And what was it like for you? Was it quite revolutionary for you? As revolutionary for you as for the spectator? Yes.
On a tourné
We
très longtemps, on va dire.
we shot these scenes for a long time.
Qu'on rigole, bien sûr.
We had a lot of fun and laughs with Adele. Sometimes we burst out laughing, in
Non, mais
fact.
écoutez, c'est vrai qu'en même temps, c'était aussi un challenge.
At the same time, it was quite a challenge to do that.
Voilà.
Mais il y a, je crois que la sensualité, enfin,
I
pour moi,
think
a
that
été
sensuality
plus difficile à filmer
is more difficult
dans les scènes
to
de repas, dans la façon de
film
manger de chacun et de capter ça.
and capture on the screen. It's present even when they're having dinner, eating a meal. Of course, there are love scenes. You have the sculptural aspect of the bodies, the light, the beauty of their faces, which make our work much easier.
Et puis, oui, je crois qu'on s'en est amusé quand même.
I think we also had a great deal of fun.
Il y a quand même la notion de jeu. Hein,
It was a game.
C'est des moments.
It was acting. It was a game.
Des personnages, des émotions.
We were building up the characters, depicting the emotions of these characters. For the actors, I think they felt they were enjoying themselves. They were portraying a part, of course.
Oui, je crois qu'il y a cette notion de jeu qu'il faut retenir aussi.
I think these scenes should be viewed as a sort of a game.
En plus de
In addition
de la beauté de l'acte en soi.
to the beauty of the act per se.
Hi, Fred Topel with Crave Online, and I speak English, so I hope you can translate. It was refreshing to see such openness portrayed in the scenes we're discussing, and I know that in places especially like the States, you'll have problems where their standards are different for what they allow to portray an open sexuality on film. If they asked you to make cuts in order to have an international audience, would you be willing to do so that people in the States can see the movie too?
Non. Je considère que
I consider
le cinéma, un film,
that a film
certes, on aspire à exprimer quelque chose de l'ordre
is
artistique.
designed to express something very artistic. As a director, one hopes that each scene will be a work of art.
Dimension financière, commerciale.
There is, of course, a financial and commercial dimension that has to be taken into account. Also, it's a question of respecting people who have a different film tradition. In the States, granted, there's a different way of portraying love, sex, or even violence, or the sense of adventure even. So this is something which we shall no doubt discuss with Brahim and Vincent. I did that in my preceding film, in fact. I have been asked to cut out certain scenes which might upset people and not to meet with the approval of censorship in certain countries. So this is something that one can always discuss with the distributors. We don't want a film not to be screened because there is just one scene that bothers people. If it's the whole film or a large proportion of the film, then it's hard just to cut this out. However, one can reach a sort of a compromise solution with regrets, but this is something that can be done. I'd like to put the question to Vincent Marabel and Brahim Chouya. Were these problems discussed with Abdelatif Keshish during the shooting of the film? The film has already been sold to a distributor who saw it midweek. I have seen. He comes from the US, and he didn't talk about cutting anything out of the film. He likes it as it is. And all the distributors who've seen it so far, because many saw it last Monday, eh bien, none of them have asked for anything to be cut out of the film. I don't think the problem will even arise. That's very good news. I'm sure that there are countries which will ask you to cut out certain scenes. If it's not the US, it may be others.
Apologies for not speaking French. This is Charlotte Higgins from the Guardian newspaper in London. It's such an interesting time in the history of homosexuality, gay marriage, especially in France, and I would like to ask you to contextualise your film in relation to that. This will be seen as a very vivid and interesting and political film to the gay community and to society at large. Could you talk about whether you considered that and you know how it sits in relation to the kind of history of gay rights, if you like?
Quand j'ai eu l'envie de raconter cette histoire,
when I decided I wanted to tell this story,
ce contexte politique dont vous parlez,
the political context you are referring to didn't exist.
On n'a pas fait ce film pour
We didn't make the film, in other words, to comply with a given political context. As I have already said, I didn't want to make a militant film that had a given message to deliver about a specific topic, in this case homosexuality. It can, of course, be seen from that angle. It doesn't bother me.
Après, sur le... Pardon. Oui. Pardon, parce que je vous avais...
I saw you raising your hand. That's why I stopped talking.
Pardon.
Bonjour.
Mohamed Boualleb, Tunisia. In this blue Bible, you said that a revolution must also entail a sexual revolution. Hence my question, what do you think about the Tunisian revolution? What do you think about what is happening with our Salafist brothers? That's my first question. Second question, how do you view the sexual revolution amongst Tunisian youth?
Je ne sais pas si c'est le moment et si le film.
I don't know whether it's the moment in time or the film.
Et en même temps, pour ce que je pense de la révolution tunisienne.
Well, you've asked me what I think about the Tunisian revolution. I was thrilled. It gave me great hope.
Voilà, qui me fait croire justement à cette jeunesse tunisienne.
Helps me to believe a very great deal in Tunisian youth. When I talk about a sexual revolution, what I'm referring to is sexual liberty, sexual freedom.
Voilà, et je crois effectivement que
I do indeed believe
que toutes les libertés
that all kinds of freedom
sont bonnes à défendre.
Are worth defending.
C'est aussi une façon de dire que je n'aimerais pas.
It's also a way of saying that
qu'on récupère cette révolution.
I wouldn't like this revolution to be used to place great pressure on these young people. That's why I wanted to talk about the sexual revolution as well.
Bonjour,
Hugues Daillé, Belgium. I'll now put my question. There are there are a lot of very interesting scenes, but there are two specific ones. The scenes with the parents who have totally different attitudes. On the one side, the parents are very open, and on the other side, the parents are very conservative. I was surprised subsequently because I thought we'd see the parents again in the film. I thought there might be, well, perhaps not a family drama, but some kind of coming out. But you then don't show Adele's parents anymore in the film. You shoot a lot. You have a lot of takes. There are many possibilities for having a film within a film. Did you ever think about using the characters of the parents more in the film? Of course, I did think about that at one stage.
Très vite le refus du discours.
But we decided not to have the parents talking about homosexuality in the film. What I decided to show was how difficult it was for the parents, how different their attitudes were. They came from totally different social backgrounds. You have Emma's parents, who are very open-minded, much more open-minded than Adele's parents.
Ils sont aussi surpris même par la
They, in fact, are quite surprised to see
le fait qu'Emma se soit intéressée à une fille qui n'est pas de son
who Emma is with, because she's not a girl from the same social background. She just wants to teach in nursery school. I didn't want to depict them as so incredibly open-minded. In fact, Adele's parents are very worried about the future of their daughter. They come from a given social background. Maybe they're a bit concerned about their daughter-in-law, so to speak.
Je pense pense qu'ils sont là, présents.
I think they're very much present because the two characters still talk about their parents. The male teacher asks questions about Adele's parents.
Que ce milieu social, en tout cas, est toujours là.
Certainly, the social background is very present in the film. But as you say, what you do in a film is to tell a story, and you can't tell all the details. There's some things you decide not to delve into in greater depth. It's true that this is something that I was also interested in, however. In other words, how would the parents have experienced this, lived it? But in this day and age, you see parents like Adele's parents, and maybe they're going to evolve and change. So I didn't think it would be very genuine to focus overly on a potential rejection of the sexuality of their daughter. I didn't really view the parents in that light. I'd thought about it, but I didn't see them in that way in my film. I just wanted to have these characters in my film, but I didn't want to develop them. I didn't want there to be a major clash, a huge separation with the family, because I thought that wouldn't be very genuine.
Rodrigo Fonseca from Globo Brasil. Question pour vous, Monsieur Kechiche.
Question to Mr. Kechiche. How did you adapt the book, and what about characters from comic strips?
C'est la première fois que j'adapte.
It's the first time I have adapted this kind of work. What I loved in the comic strip, in addition to the love story, was the time when these two girls meet. Adele misses her train, and she arrives late, and then her path crosses with this other woman, and her life totally changes. I wondered about these totally unexpected meetings, these meetings just by chance. This meeting held out such tremendous promise. Let's say you cross a street and you suddenly meet someone, you don't know whether that person, you'll ever see him or her again, yet that person may totally change your life. I was deeply touched by that idea. And then the actual adaptation was done. We're not talking about a historical film, but the tale takes place in the 90s. And there again, there was a given context. There was a very militant movement at the time, which I preferred to avoid in my film, and a tragedy as well in the original piece of work. What I wanted to do in my film was to focus more on the actual meeting, the difficulties living together, and the time when they break apart. Apparently, this is chapters 1 and 2. Does that mean there's going to be a sequel? In fact, ever since I had a rough draft, I felt that I'd never be able to part with these characters. I wanted to see them again and
Et
again.
je continue toujours à penser à ce qu'ils sont
And I
devenus 10 ans
keep thinking
après,
about what they may have
que ce soit
become
dans
10 years on, 10 years later.
L'esquive ou dans la graine. J'ai eu très envie de...
In
je me suis souvent
Games of
interrogé sur ce
Love
qu'ils
and
étaient
Chance
devenus,
and
ces
The Secret of the
personnages,
Grain,
qu'est-ce
the
qu'ils
same
avaient
is true. I
construit
wondered
dans
what my
leur vie.
characters had become, what they'd done with their lives.
Puis là, je ne sais pas comment ça s'est fait avec ce dont on parlait tout à l'heure, l'association d'idées Marivaux.
And then, of course, there was this association between different ideas, the idea of Marivaux, Marianne. Marivaux has said it's unfinished work, but it continues, it continues. It could continue on even today. And I imagine that so many other things could happen in the lives of my characters, in the life of Adele in particular. So I started indeed to imagine all sorts of additional chapters. I don't know whether they will really exist one day or not. But I like the idea, and I'd be very excited to pursue this idea. Samira Damid, La Presse, Tunisia. I'd like to greet both the director and the actresses and congratulate you on this film. I'd like to ask about the characters, particularly towards the end. There is an antagonism between the two characters. Adele is very down-to-earth, realistic. She wants to have a job. She loves children. She wants to become a primary school teacher. And then you have Emma, portrayed by Leah, who's artistic, very philosophical. It would appear that you're mocking a little bit the character of the artist in your film. Am I mistaken? It's as though you were rather more in favor of the more down-to-earth character. That's my first question. Question to Leah. Mr. Keshish, in an interview, said that he felt you had a very deep personality, very close to his home culture. Is that true? Is there an Arab side to me? Maybe there's an African side as well to me. With Abdel, we do have many things in common. But that's the way he views me, that's the way he looks at me, so it's hard really to discuss it. I do feel very close to him. When we make a film together with Abdel, it's more than just making a film, really. It's as though I was a member of his family.
Abdel est sur le positionnement de
l'artiste. What about your views of the artist? Are you a little more in favor of Adele, who's more down to earth in the film?
Oui, je pense que, enfin, en tout cas, ça n'est pas dans la dérision.
I'm not trying to make fun of Leah's character in any way, deride it or anything else.
Mais je l'ai déjà exprimé dans
In fact, I've already said this in Games of Love and Chance. I have said what great admiration I have for these people who teach children, who throw themselves into this job, which I think is absolutely magnificent.
Mais il n'y a pas j'ai quand même aussi beaucoup d'admiration.
But I also have great admiration for artists and painters.
Et ils peuvent aussi bouleverser une vie.
They also can totally change a life. They can show you how to view things differently.
Entre les deux personnages, entre l'un,
Of course, the characters are very different. One is pragmatic.
faire son métier,
One wants to find a job, feel safe in life, and the other is more light at heart.
Dans la perception.
She is more concerned with perception
Et c'est là peut-être que la difficulté dans les
and
rapports
art. That may partially explain the difficulties they have in their relationship, and perhaps that also may lead them to break up.
Bonjour, Graham Burgess du journal The Times de Londres.
The Times, London. I have a question to Adele. I saw the film yesterday. A lot of newspapers described your performance as being the real revelation here in Cannes, and they talked about a possible award, a prize for the film, including the best performance by an actress for you. What do you think? Well, don't bring us bad luck.
Non, oui, ça me surprend, mais après, je préfère...
Well, I would be very surprised, but inshallah, let's hope this is true.
Désolée, c'est court. Mais
I'm sorry, that's a very short answer, but that's what I think.
Bonjour, Sébastien Labarque.
Sébastien Labarque, La République, les Pyrénées. I have a question to Mr. Kashish. What will be the final form of this film? It's fascinating to spend 3 hours with these characters. A question now to Adele and Léa. Would you be prepared to shoot 2 additional chapters of this film? La vie d'Adèle, blue is the warmest color?
Ah, c'est à moi.
It's a question for me.
Oui, mais alors après, il y aurait le chapitre...
Yes.
Le chapitre 5, le chapitre...
But then we'll have to have chapters 5, 6, and 7 as well.
Ce qui est passionnant avec Abdel, c'est que...
What's fascinating with Abdel is that you never reach the end of something.
Il y a toujours...
There's always...
des millions de possibilités.
There are always millions of possibilities to continue.
D'ailleurs, c'est vrai que
It's true that the shooting took a long time. There were a huge number of takes. I think with all the rushes, he could in fact have made another film. In fact, he could put them together and come out with another film.
Oui, non, mais c'est vrai que c'est... Non, mais c'est vrai que c'est passionnant. C'est vrai qu'Abdel a une façon...
It's a fascinating experience. Abdel is a unique director. The way he makes films is quite amazing. For us, at least for me as an actress, it's a unique experience. It's true.
Adèle?
Adèle?
Oui, ça se rapproche énormément de ce que dit Léa.
I would support what Léa has just said.
A une manière de justement de te diriger sans te diriger.
Adele has a way of directing
qui t'amène vers des états que tu
that enables you to reach new heights. That wasn't your question, perhaps.
Mais avec plaisir, ouais, je ferai d'autres chapitres.
Yes, I'd be thrilled to do further chapters, so long as people don't get bored, and with all the rushes in the film, with all the takes, Abdel could make a whole lot of other films. It's hard to imagine. In fact, when I saw the film, I didn't realize that was what it was going actually to look like, because it could have addressed many, many other things. So chapters 1 and 2 could span several years. Both of you evolve. I wouldn't say you grow older, but you do mature. And this isn't just linked to the change in hairstyle. And how did you view this, growing up in the film, becoming older? Well, shooting the film took a long time. How long exactly did it take? How long was it, Abdel?
Ouais, 4 mois.
4 months.
Et du coup, non, c'est à force de trouver l'histoire, de continuer, d'évoluer.
We continued to evolve in the story.
Mais presque.
It was a game.
Mais c'est vrai, j'ai remarqué, il y a des scènes où
As we said,
en fait, je suis fatiguée aussi.
there are some scenes where I was quite tired actually, and that had an impact on my acting. Yes, this was a love story. There were all sorts of ups and downs. Many things totally escaped us. At some points we decided to fight things, at other times not. And then I taught in primary school. I felt very fulfilled because I had wonderful little pupils. So I did sort of grow up because of the events in my life.
Dimitris Danikas from Athens. For Adele, can you tell us something about your Greek background? For instance, you speak Greek, you're born in Greece, what? Thank you.
Non, pas du tout.
No, not at all. Not at all. My mother's maiden name is even worse. But no, I'm not Greek. I never went to Greece. It's my grandfather who was Greek. And apart from feta cheese, which I love, that's about it. Sorry to disappoint you.
Jean
Serrois, Le Dauphiné, France. I have 2 questions to Abdelatif Kechiche. You film a lot of scenes where there are characters from different social classes, and there are also scenes shot at the school. Did you experience your time at school similar to what you depict in the film with Adele when she's attending class? And you've already been asked whether you prefer the more artistic characters. I'd like to say, however, that in your films we often see scenes from class, schools. Many people have seen games of love and chance. So what do you think about the actual teaching aspect that is often portrayed in your films?
S'il y en a une, elle est inconsciente.
Well, this is not a conscious objective in my films. I always get the impression that I learn so much when I see these young generations. I'm full of admiration when I see young people today compared with my generation. There's such tremendous freedom, liberty now. In my films, I show spectators how I view this generation. It's a very gentle, admiring view. Am I trying to teach people something in my films? I don't know. It's not something I'm really aware of. I just love filming all these teachers. I filmed a lot of people who don't appear in the film. I filmed a lot of classes being given at Adele's school. And they're very beautiful moments. The teachers are giving their French classes, their philosophy classes, their science classes. We spent days and days filming lessons, filming classes being given. Some of them didn't find a place in the film in the end, but I do intend to show them at some point in time on a site or in some additional chapters or what have you, because I find it so very interesting. But I couldn't include all these scenes in the film, at least for the time being. For the time being.
Moi, comme je vous disais, c'est une autre génération.
It's a different generation.
On n'avait pas Internet.
When I was young, we didn't have the internet, TV.
Je découvrais plus le monde à travers.
I discovered the world in a different way.
Plus tard, avec des
And probably later, it's when training for the theater that I discovered all these things, including Marivaux, for example.
Mais j'ai du mal à dire, voilà, j'ai quelque chose
I can't really say, yes, I have something to say, I have a message to convey. That's not what I'm trying to do in my films. If the spectators get something out of it, grasp something, then that's fine. But I feel that I have learned so much. I learn so much when working with young actors and actresses. I have the impression that I also learn a very great deal about this young generation, which I find so much more exalting, so much freer than my generation. Mexico? I have a question for you. I found your film very beautiful, both in terms of the screenplay, the acting, the direction. In the film, there's some Arabic music, or am I mistaken? When Adele leaves at the end of the film, the music, I think, is Arabic, isn't it? The instrument appears at the beginning of the film. When they meet, you see this instrument. It's a magnificent instrument which fills you with emotion. And the young boy is playing this instrument. It's practically an improvisation, in fact. But this is the first time that you have that kind of music in the film. In the remainder of the film, the music is different. Yes, it is the only time. I felt that this was just right for the scene at the end, because at the end, that scene reminds me of the scene at the beginning when Emma and Adele first meet, and that's what I wanted to convey in the music. At the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, you made some statements which were widely covered in France. You talked about colossal budgets. What about this film? What about the production of this film and its budget? I'll be happy to answer. The production of this film complies fully with what Vincent said at the end of last year. The budget for the film was a very reasonable one. Everyone was paid a minimum, the actors, the actresses, the director, and so on. And there wasn't a problem in terms of the financing or the cost of the film. Abdel was very free in terms of content and the length of the film and the length of the shooting, and the end result is a top-quality film, the one you saw yesterday. I think that what Vincent said at the end of last year is very true. When financing a film, one has to adapt to the market, to the situation, to the possibilities for sales abroad.
Eh bien, c'est déjà terminé. Merci
Well,
pour
we
ce
have now
film.
come to the
Merci
end
à
of this press conference. Thank you very much for your film.